Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Salespath live event. We really appreciate you joining us, and honestly, I'm very excited to share the content with you all today. To kick things off, I'll go ahead and introduce our speaker lineup. I am Sarah Bruff, the Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Rinsed. I'll be acting as the MC today for the live demo. You'll also be hearing from Austin Essexson, the co-founder and CEO of Rinsed, as well as Kyle Doyle, the co-founder of Salespath and current VP of Rinsed. We have a great agenda for you today and lots of really great content. Austin will kick things off for us to give a more detail as to what Salespath is and how it interacts with Rinsed. Then you'll see a short clip about that shows Salespath in action and how it works in the driveway. Next, Kyle and I will talk through the origins of Salespath and what drove Kyle to kind of build out the platform. Kyle will then take center stage and walk you through the product itself. Lastly, we'll turn the time over to you all for a Q&A. Now to the right of your screen if you're on a desktop, or below the video if you're on a mobile, you will find a Q&A chat. Feel free to drop your questions in there at any point during our discussion today, and we will have time at the end to answer as many questions as we can. Now, during the webinar, if you'd also like to learn more about Salespath, feel free to click the Get Demo button at the top of your screen. You don't need to input any additional information there, but simply by clicking on the button, our team will be notified to reach out. I'm excited to dive right in. I'll go ahead and have Austin join me on stage so he can go ahead and move forward with talking about what Salespath is. All right. Hi, Austin. I'll go ahead and turn the video.
Great. So I'm Austin, the CEO of Rinse, the car wash CRM. Thanks everybody for joining us today. We're really excited to show you all Salespath, the car wash salesperson platform. There's really no better person to walk you through that product than Kyle Doyle, the co-creator of Salespath. But before I hand it over to Kyle to give you all a live demo, I just want to give a brief background on why we were so excited to partner with Kyle and Craig and why we think Salespath is really the missing piece in the problem that Rinsed is trying to solve for operators. So just very high level, Rinsed is a 5-year-old company. We're entirely focused on the car wash industry. And our goal at Rinsed is to help car wash operators grow their revenue by improving both the customer and employee experience. We look at every part of the customer journey and we try to understand where we can leverage technology to increase customer satisfaction and ultimately customer lifetime value. From the first free wash that gets you in the driveway, the follow-up drip marketing campaigns, a frictionless online checkout, retail loyalty, churn reduction, and a bunch of other things. Whether it's a retail customer or a member, everything we do is focused on growing your customer base and increasing the lifetime value of those customers. But there's no greater increase in customer lifetime value than when you can convert a retail customer to a recurring member. And what we realized with our customers is that there was this huge part of the customer journey that our tools were completely missing. And that's the moment in the driveway, the moment of sale. This moment between the salesperson and the customer that happens hundreds of times a week. And the best we could do was report on the results a day later and in aggregate form. And that was definitely better than nothing, but we realized it wasn't giving operators the tools that they needed to really enact change in the driveway and ensure a consistent customer experience. So Salespath solves this problem. Salespath brings visibility to the driveway, providing insights into each sale moment to help you improve the sale process and increase conversion. So I think anybody who knows me or knows Rinsed knows that we're really focused on data, and not just the data in and of itself, but to help us measure what's working and really tighten the feedback loop around continuous improvement. So when we were discussing the opportunity with Kyle, we had a few mutual customers already, and that gave us the opportunity to not just take their word for it, but actually look at the data and see what impact Salespath was having in the driveway. What we found was there was a really consistent story across our mutual customers. I'm going to take one specific example because they rolled out Salespath at about a quarter of their locations. So we had a great natural experiment or A/B test. So we had 10 sites without Salespath, 3 with it, all in the same region, all with the same sales processes, same promos, and we could see the impact that Salespath had. And what we saw was about a 20% increase in conversion rate. And we were shocked not just by the overall impact, but by the consistency. So we saw that impact at every site that had implemented this. I think your mileage might vary, but this is really illustrative of the power of a system like Salespath and why we got so excited about what this could do for the rest of the industry. So before turning it over to Kyle, I'm going to share just a 30-second video overview with you to show you what Salespath looks like in the driveway. And then Kyle will give a product walkthrough and live demo.
When a customer arrives, the sales associate presses a button on the Salespath presentation tablet to launch a full-screen, customized presentation. While the presentation itself is best in class, the real power comes from recording every presentation given, including which salesperson is present, start and stop times, and the audio. Once the customer makes a decision, the sales associate closes the presentation and helps the customer complete the transaction on the existing PayStation or POS terminal. The salesperson can now view a dashboard with real-time performance data, leaderboards, and gamification to stay motivated. Management also has access to real-time data to identify opportunities and ensure peak performance.
All right. Thank you, Austin, so much for sharing that information for us. Love to see all those conversion rate increases. Austin, as he talked, he showed some challenges that he saw in the driveway. We'd really love to hear from you all. I'm going to launch a poll right now, and you'll be able to see it in the right-hand screen within the chat, the poll tab. What are some challenges that you see your sales team have? As people are filling in that poll, now, Kyle, I know you have had a lot of history in the car wash space and have seen some significant challenges that motivated you to build Salespath. Can you share a bit with us about your background?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in the car wash industry. My father started CompuWash. I don't know if anybody had a CompuWash tunnel controller out there. He started that in 1980. We also had a full-serve tunnel car wash in Long Island. So grew up around it. I took over in 2004, turned it into a point-of-sale company, the first cloud-based point-of-sale software. Sold that to Sonny's. It became Sonny's Controls in 2009. Before Salespath, I was the VP of Marketing and Customer Experience at a private equity-backed group. And I was headed out. I wanted to open my own car wash. I kind of really missed the hands-on day-to-day operation of a car wash. I think there is no more nobler profession or role in our industry than the operator. I have a ton of respect for the operator. I wanted to get back in that role. And I started thinking about, all right, how would I do sales? It's so important. Membership growth is so important. It's such a difference between the high performers and the lower performers. And so as I started thinking about that, I started thinking about, wait a second, can we apply technology to that moment? I thought about the laminated rack card or menu. A visual was a really helpful tool. But what if we use a tablet and then we can dynamically change that at any point? But then the aha was, wait a second, we could then record every single presentation given. And as we all know, the key to membership sales is not necessarily having all-star salespeople. That's great. You need a system to stay consistent to present to every car. And by recording every presentation, now we had this great tool set to build from there once we had the POS data as well. So we put those two things together, and I convinced a good friend of mine, Craig Vella, who is a brilliant software engineer, full stack developer. He and I started building the product together, late nights on Zoom, just kind of coding and building this out. And we saw just great results kind of right away.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing that. I have talked to you several times about your background, and I always love hearing about this journey that you had and coming to kind of build out Salespath. Now, I'm going to go ahead and close out the poll that we did. Looking at the results, it's fun to see from you all what was the biggest challenges you've seen. It seems the highest votes went to sales pitch consistency and salesperson motivation, followed by tracking salesperson performance. It's good to hear that they also saw similar things that you did, Kyle, as you went in on this journey. Now, as you went ahead and started implementing Salespath, what type of impact did you see it have?
Yeah. So, one of the, when I was thinking about starting that car wash, I was just talking to a lot of people that I know throughout the country, in operations. And so what I saw was there was just this consistency of the problems people were trying to solve and how many people were doing these kind of homegrown things. So we realized that there were two things we could do to drive conversion rate up. The first was the presentation pillar, we'd like to call it. That is, what should the script be? How are the visuals supporting that? How do we train sales associates on giving it, that type of thing. But then once we have it, that's not enough. You then have to add the accountability pillar. The accountability pillar is, okay, we designed a great presentation, but how do we make sure we're giving it consistently and at scale? That's the game. And so what we did is we built the presentation part first, and we saw great results. But overnight, once we introduced a dashboard where the sales associate could see in real time on the tablet what their numbers were for the day, what all the other sales associates were doing at that brand for the day, whether it's that location or others, now there was this feedback loop. And really, that's gamification, is feedback loops. That drove this accountability that overnight we saw this increase in conversion rate. And that was really the exciting part of putting those two things together. A best-in-class presentation with these accountability tools to make sure we're doing it consistently and at scale. And really, that's where we saw the increase coming.
Amazing. Well, thanks for outlining those pillars that drove that impact to conversion that you saw. I'm now really excited to see Salespath in action. So I'm going to go ahead and hop off stage so that you can take it over and take us through the product itself.
Okay.
Thanks for chatting.
Thanks, Sarah. So yeah, I mean, real quick, one of the things we saw is unattended pay stations. And by the way, we were kind of shocked at how many operators were manning the pay stations. But when they were unattended, we saw conversion rates in that kind of 1% to 3% range. Just throwing some salespeople out there, we kind of saw that 4% to 6%. Starting to focus on it as a company, as a brand, as a culture, 7 to 12. And we really see the best in the business in that kind of 15 to low 20s number. And that's kind of a net number over time. Really, we get very granular in how we calculate that. So we take out, different non-eligible washes. But that was kind of what we saw across the industry. And then, we really saw that that growth is really, I mean, it's monumental what kind of revenue can be created when you get that conversion rate up. If you take that 5% conversion rate, if you just look at the exponential increase, especially since we know about the compounding effect of the subscription industry that we're in and all subscription businesses, it really is quite impactful. So let's start by taking a look at what the salesperson sees. So we talked a little bit about that presentation. And so when they launch, they press a button to launch a full screen presentation. That presentation is completely customizable. We work with you. We tell you what we've learned. You tell us what you've learned. And this is very customizable. It can be updated and changed at any moment by you, by us if you need help, but very, very self-serve and easy. But we recommend a very consultative approach up front. We don't like presenting membership right away because we want to establish the value. There's a ton of kind of behavioral consumer psychology behind this. We won't get in too much depth there, but we stay consultative. Another thing we like to recommend is stay really simple on what inclusions we're adding here. People get overwhelmed, and when they get overwhelmed, they go to their default choice, which is pretty much always basic. So let's say we've trained the associate to be consultative here, key in on some of the key inclusions that people notice: tire shine, ceramic, wax, that type of thing. Once we would click on, let's say they choose extreme, we would have a slide dedicated to that. The other thing we recommend is we train the sales associates to tell the customer they made a great choice. We want the customer to feel good about what they've chosen. They're overwhelmed, they're intimidated often by the process. So, hey, that's a great choice. You're going to get, this, and that. And any package, we're going to tell them a great choice, even if it's the basic. We want them to feel good about themselves. Then we make the offer. Here we're using the retail is going to be the first month. We're using that promo, very popular in our industry. It works really well. And so you can just see the visual kind of difference between the one icon and the many. And so we can say something like, well, I can get you one of those for $20, or I can get you a whole month for $20. Either way, you're going to spend $20, but with the membership, you can wash whenever you want. There's no contracts. You can cancel anytime. And our customers love the way it feels to wash whenever they want. Can I get you signed up for that? So that's the basic presentation. But the point here is, once I close this presentation, no matter what we've designed with you, now we've recorded it. So we have which salesperson was logged in. We have the length of that presentation, of course, the date and time, and now we have the audio of that presentation. And so now we can build our powerful data and dashboards and tools off of that, because we're looking at that presentation given as the first domino that has to fall to drive conversion rate up. So if we know we washed 100 retail cars and we only gave 70 presentations, well, we know there's an opportunity there, because we could see the difference between conversion rate unattended versus when we have our sales associates out there. So then it starts to get pretty easy to do the math of, do I want to be covered full operational hours? Is 9 to 5 what I'm doing now? Okay. You could start to see your individual salespeople. And so now, once they close this, the salesperson is going to see their dashboard. This dashboard, again, is really where we begin driving that accountability, because the salesperson is not waiting till the end of the week to find out how they did when they get their commission, not a POS report at the end of the day or the week, and a lot of times that's aggregate because it's hard to compile. They're seeing it in real time on the front lines, so they know, I need to make some improvements. So if we zoom into a couple of those things, we have our top bar here. It's going to show them their, on the left there, you see their name and their avatar frame. So we move everybody through these different ranks with the different badges based on how many members they sell. So this individual here, he's on master level. That avatar frame gets a little bit more elaborate the more members you sell. It shows them exactly how many more they need to get to that next level. We also see the reward status. So not every customer has to do this. This is optional, but the vast majority of our clients do use it because it's very powerful. Is we allow the sales associate to opt into a reward. What reward do you want to choose? So they go to the marketplace on the tablet, they pick a reward. This John here is working towards a PlayStation 5, and right now he's got 7,000 points of 17,000 he needs to get it. We're keeping that carrot in front of them all the time. Again, we won't get too deep in the psychology, but commission is more of an extrinsic motivator. This is more of an intrinsic motivator. They're choosing really a goal. Okay, I'm going to work towards this as a goal. And now we're putting that goal in front of them at all times. To the right of that, we see their gauges. These are the 3 numbers we really want to keep an eye on every day. And so we see conversion rate. That's this individual's conversion rate as of that time. Their retail dollar per car or average ticket, and their customer engagement, which is how often they're using the presentations. These gauges will be green when they're at the target. We can set targets by brand and by location, and then it'll go to yellow if it's close, and it'll go to red if it's below that. They know then that they need to keep these gauges in the green. To the right there, you see the button to start a presentation. Below that, they're going to see the leaderboard. So now they could see themselves. They'll always see where they are ranked, but they're also going to see everybody else at the company, whether it's their location because there's a rotation, or it's other locations in the brand. It's a really fun way, combined with the message center that we have. We see organic messaging happening between locations where they're saying, "Hey, looks like you're number one, but I'm going to be number one." Some really just great organic feedback and engagement that happens between the sales team. So they could see how many cars. They could look at this yesterday. By default, it's today, but they could also look at yesterday, last 7 days, last 30 days. Another important part of sales culture is being transparent with what those numbers are. They don't need to see the P&L, but they do need to see how many cars and conversions each sales associate is making. And then if we look to the left of that, there's this message center. This message center is kind of a social media style feed. And so it's going to be training posts. It's going to be notifications from CoachBot. CoachBot is set to about 20 different triggers in the system. So CoachBot will pat on the back. So CoachBot will send out to the whole company when somebody hits a milestone, when they get their reward, when they sell another 50 memberships, when they change ranks, little confetti will fall down. Everybody will see, hey, shout out to so-and-so because they're now a master. People can comment on it, like it, heart it, that type of thing. And then there's a chat. There's one-on-one chat where management can message sales people on the front lines. The great part about that is you don't need to know who's working when. We push out some training content. The next time the sales associate logs in, they're going to see that content and they could read it at that point. We've got one question, so we'll try to take these as they kind of come in. So how do you define eligible washes to generate conversion rate? We have interfaces to all the top POS systems. Each of them handle that a little bit differently. And so we look at each one. We typically pull out prepaid redemptions, gift card, employee wash, free wash. And so it's a little bit different by POS based on how they're classifying transactions. But we're looking at the raw transaction data, and we're figuring out what to calculate as eligible. And yes, it does. We do work with Sunny's. So thanks for the question, Nicole. So they are not, this is another popular question. Let me pop back up to the dashboard. We are not transacting on the tablet. So this is a presentation tablet. It's a way to engage the sales associate. Once the customer's made a decision, they're going to now take that credit card, as you saw in the video, they're going to dip it into the pay station and finish the order there. So there's no new training that has to happen on transacting. This is not a POS tablet. You're still going to use your current methods for finishing out the sale. Yes, DRB Patheon as well. Resign. So it depends again on the POS, on grace period. So if the customer rolls up and they are still within the grace period, then we will not count it as a conversion because they're just adding a new credit card or something like that. After the grace period, we're going to rely on the POS data, which says, okay, this customer is new because they've canceled out towards the end. So we'll hit some of those. We'll keep kind of moving through here. So now let me stop this share. And I am going to share what you would see as kind of the management screen. Okay, so this is what you're seeing here. So you would have kind of your MRR, your monthly recurring members, and churn. But I really want to key in on this. This is what a lot of clients really find helpful. You're going to see your live conversion rate in real time for the day. This is going to show you how many retail eligible cars you've seen, how many signups you've had, the subsequent conversion rate. You're going to see the dollar per car average ticket, and then the customer engagement. So this particular organization doing fantastic. They're at 100%. If we look down to our leaderboard here, we could see all of our sales associates. We have, this is kind of early in the day here. And so we have not too many cars being seen yet, but we've got some really solid conversion rates. We see our dollar per cars and engagement. One thing I'll point out that in the last 30-day view, we could see churn by salesperson. So this is a newer client, so it takes 30 days to show, and this is anonymized data, but this is actual client data that we've anonymized. So this churn will happen 30 days later, and then you're also going to get to see lifetime recurring revenue per sales associate. So that tells you this particular person, for example, has seen 229 cars. Of that, 62 have converted, giving them a 27.1 conversion rate. Of the 62, 68 are active, which means that family plans, their particular, they're kind of trying to promote the family plans. So it's grown. This is first month, meaning that sales associate is responsible for $2,264 of recurring revenue. So again, just really kind of powerful data on what you would see there. If we look into, I'm going to go to this screen here. Let's go to the daily transactions. And if we were to look at These, we're going to see every single transaction that's coming from the POS and what salesperson we have associated with it. So again, this is randomized. These names are randomized, but we see all the signups here. We see all the different signups. We see who it was. We see the length of the presentation. We see the audio link there. So we can go to any day. We can pull this up. We can look at, again, how many transactions there's been, and we can go through. We could see, okay, we only missed one car there, no problem, looks really good. Oh, I missed another one here, that's no problem, but no major gaps here. So we would say, hey, this is really, really well done. The other place we can go to is come over here to sale presentations. And in this, if we ran, let's say we ran the last week. So you might have a sales manager be looking at this, or a manager looking at their location. You run this report, and now I could see every salesperson, and I could look at Victoria Cook has 55 sale presentation. I could look at every single one. I could see the length. I could see all the audio, the links, and I could sort by length. I can sort by the signups, and see all of it in one place. And so I don't want to get too deep in here. We can also see our salesperson leaderboard. This is great for using for contests. We have clients using that for different rewards and bonuses and things like that. All right, so maybe we get to some questions. What do you think, Sarah? You want to come on stage and help me with some questions? Let's see. So,
I just realized I was
there we
muted.
go. There we go. Yeah. It's good.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Kyle. And Austin, if you'd like to come on stage too to answer some questions. We'll go ahead and talk through all the great questions coming through the chat and the Q&A section. To kick off, I know there was a question that came through about, is there any delay, or is it based on real time?
Okay, good question. It takes us about 5 to 10 minutes. It kind of depends sometimes on the POS, but the data is about 10 minutes. Let's call it 10 minutes old.
That sounds great. 10-minute old, so fairly real time data.
Yeah,
right there.
fairly real time. Yeah, and there are some things that we can do depending on the POS and depending on some of the configuration to get it even quicker. We have some clients on like a 3-minute.
Great. Now, Jim asks, have you tracked retention rates post-implementation? Had a proper pitch improved retention?
So now we're talking about churn. I would say that, and this is Salespath or not Salespath, when you look at kind of the P&Ls and the data at car washes, when your sales goes up, your churn is going to come up a little bit too. In fact, when clients say, well, my churn is really low, I'm at 4%, 5%, usually that's an indicator that we're missing some revenue, because churn really should be a little bit higher. If you're selling, then churn is going to go up a little bit. It shouldn't be astronomical. And it always, when you do the math, it always nets out positive revenue-wise. It's not one of these things where, now, if you have aggressive salespeople, you might have a higher churn for that individual. But again, Salespath catches that, because we could see the location churn average is let's say 9%, but Joe's churn rate winds up being 30%. But it's great because now I can see that, I could flag it, I could listen to some audio, and I could find out, hey, wait a second, Joe's telling people to cancel after 30 days and they'll get the promo and he'll get the commission. So we got to go talk to Joe. So again, there's that transparency into understanding what's happening. And really that's the pain point, right? Is once the sales manager leaves that area, how do you know what's happening out there? Salespath is making that transparent so that you can actually see what's happening and then dig into it a little bit, all without having to pull all of this POS reporting data, compile it. It's one login, one click, and you've got live salesperson data that's very, very granular.
Thanks. I think another aspect to call out there is it also shows the great interaction between like Salespath and Rinse, how you're seeing the impact and the increase in Salespath within the memberships. And then obviously the Rinse tracking and data can help with monitoring that churn as well.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, Sarah, because Rinse does a great job at showing LTV, lifetime value of that member at that particular car wash. Well, now if we know, hey, that member's worth $300 on average, okay, what is it worth to put extra salespeople out there to make sure we're covering full operational hours? The conversion rate with and without, you can start to do some easy math to make sure, because of the lifetime value, just how valuable those members are.
Yeah. Now, I know you kind of answered the question about the Sunny's POS. Do you want to outline the other POS systems that Salespath integrates?
So it's all the major ones. I meant to have something I could paste in here. It's DRB, Patheon, SiteWatch, ICS, Micrologic, Sunny's, eGenuity, and really we've worked on some other smaller ones as well.
Great.
It's a fairly simple interface. We're not writing to the database. We're reading. We're looking at some basic data, so it's fairly straightforward.
Great. Another question came through. Can you run the program on a tablet that you already have using to cash out vehicles versus holding 2 tablets?
Yeah, good question. So it depends exactly. There's some context and specifics we'd have to dig into. One of the things, we are not a hardware company, so we're not trying to make money on our tablets. So it's an easy way to get started. Typically we ship each location 2 tablets, one to use and one to have on backup and being charged on the battery. But we do have clients that are using their own tablets. They want to choose the big iPad, or they want to choose, something that they already have for some other reasons. We're totally fine. We are a web app, so we would put in the URL. They would log in just like on our tablets. So we can work either way.
Great. Lots of really good questions. All right, the next one. How does Salespath match the pitch to the member sign up?
Yeah, so we're using a timestamp matching algorithm. So when they close that, first of all, we're kind of looking at each transaction, and we're seeing if we had a presentation right before that. So we train the sales associates to close the presentation, then transact and finish up that sale. We then can match it. It's pretty straightforward. So that's how, when you saw that report of daily transactions, you saw every POS transaction and what salesperson we attributed to that. So that's how we're matching it. And so, yeah, so that's how we're calculating, first of all, coverage. So how many cars are you missing because you don't have a salesperson out there? And then we show engagement. Once you have a salesperson out there, how often are they actually presenting to the customer? And those are 2 really important numbers to kind of start to narrow down that funnel about where the low-hanging fruit is to start increasing membership.
And we had a question about multiple lanes. I think it's worth just noting that most of our customers with this, they have multiple salespeople in multiple lanes. And when there is just one salesperson and several lanes, they'll select which lane they're in if they're floating.
Yeah, we're looking at all POS transactions by lane. So we see the lane that they occurred in.
Thank you, Austin, for calling that out. That was the next one that I was going to bring up. So, and also speaking of the tablets themselves, are they cell-based or Wi-Fi?
It could be either. So we can do both. Most clients are doing Wi-Fi, and it's really just if they don't have it already, putting a wireless access point kind of on that side of the building facing that area. It doesn't need to be right there. But we do have some clients that didn't want to do that, so they've used SIM cards in tablets.
Great. Now, how do you define eligible washers to generate that conversion rate?
Yeah, so it does depend a little bit on the POS. There are some variables that we can change based on how the particular client is set up. But yeah, it's somewhat configurable on what's an eligible retail car and what a conversion should look like.
Great. We did answer this question in the chat, but since a lot of people liked it, I wanted to bring it up here as we're talking. Can the presentation on the tablet be switched to other languages like Spanish?
Yeah, that's the great part about the presentation tool. It's so dynamic. It's so easy to use. Really, they're JPEGs. They're JPEG rectangles. So anything you make, you can create branches. So we have clients getting very creative. So you can have your menu, and then you have a Spanish button, let's say, that you hit that and it jumps to the menu in Spanish. Flex clients, they can have an interior, they can have a detail menu. You have an upcoming promotion. Hey, everybody, I really want, at the end of every retail transaction, remember everybody about the big event we're having next week. And so you can add a slide in for that. So it's very dynamic. You basically can set any slide and you could make it jump to any other slide. So anything you could think of within that context is possible.
Amazing. Yeah, I do think that's a really strong point of Salespath, that those presentations are customizable and tailored towards the specific watches. Now,
we had a CRM question from Justin at Breeze through. Does Salespath data feed up to the Rinse dashboards, and what's the flexibility on establishing KPIs? And the answer is not yet, but very soon. So yeah, we just integrated with Kyle and the team about 2 months ago. So we're looking forward to having all that data. And then once it's in your Rinse dashboard, we'll have similar flexibility on emailing you reports based on that.
Yeah, one of the new features we're really excited about is we're able to collect cell phone data on retail transactions and send it over to Rinse. So that's kind of an early door that we're able to walk through there. And that's being tested right now, and it's looking really, really good. So again, we can build that Rinse CRM much faster by pulling that in the driveway.
Definitely. Now, Tara asks, are you accounting for re-signups?
Yeah, so re-signups, it would depend. Are we talking about somebody who is within grace period or outside? So if they're outside of grace period, they were a member last year, the POS treats them as a new member. We treat them as a new member. At the end of the day, what we care about is what behaviors do we want out of the sales associate? How do we encourage those behaviors? We want them trying to sell someone a membership. Whether that person was a member 2 months ago or a year ago, hey, we want you to do your best to give them a presentation. So typically, we give them credit for that conversion.
Great. Now, Tony asks, can sales memberships with tablet and finalize on the POS? And yes, that is the flow that you work through the tablet to provide the presentation and then finalize on the POS. Kyle, do you have any more to add to that?
No, yeah, that's exactly it. So we close the presentation on our presentation tablet, and now whether it's a POS terminal or a pay station, it gets finished out there.
Great. I think we just have a couple more questions that we'll highlight. Do you have stats on dry versus vacuum area conversions?
Yeah, so typically we're really in the pay lanes. That's where, because we're looking to match up to find out what happened with the POS transaction. So to date, we have not done any signups in the VAC area or the detail area. I think it's an interesting opportunity down the road, but right now we're really focused on the low-hanging fruit, which is how do we get the highest conversion rate possible in the driveway, in the lanes.
Great. Well, thank you for all the questions that we had. I'm just reviewing them really quick to make sure that we've kind of answered all of them, and it seems that we have answered most. We'll reach out to people directly after as well to follow up with the questions that you had and ensure that they're answered. And
just to reiterate something you said before, Sarah, I think there's so much to kind of the presentation pillars that we have and the accountability pillars. We know that we're not going to be able to get into enough depth just today. So you mentioned it before, but that get demo button in the top of your screen, it's a one click. You're not going to get pulled away to another screen to fill out another form. But I feel like a YouTube guy, but like and subscribe, people. But you click that button and we can go into a lot more depth with you about your POS, your setup, your lanes, and kind of go on a tailored presentation for you.
Yeah, thanks for calling that out, Kyle. As you said, feel free to press that button. We'll reach out, and any other questions, or just in general, if you have more questions about the Salespath product, you can press that button and we'll reach out as well. To wrap things up, we just wanted to say thank you for joining us today. Before you do go ahead and log off, I'm just going to do a 1-question survey. Feel free to answer to let us know how you did today. But thank you for joining us. We appreciate your attendance, and we hope you all have a great day.